This is Gideon 6, and welcome to Decoding Deviations. Our guest today is Cendrine Marrouat, who is a poet and photographer who has authored and co-authored more than 40 books. She is well known for creating a variety of haikus, including my personal favorite, the Sisku, which we'll talk more about soon. You can find all of her artwork, photography, books, and more on her website, creativeramblings.com. and her YouTube channel at Haiku Shack. All those links will be in the description below. Please do not forget to subscribe and like the video. Thank you for watching. Yeah, got the hair down today. Feeling kind of wild, a little unkept, but
Oh no, it's not. That looks nice. That looks nice.
been a busy week. And so just to be clear, your name is pronounced Cendrine Marrouat. Is that
Wow, very
that's
good.
close?
Wow, first time no one butchers it here. I'm impressed. In
Well,
20 years.
really
In 20 years. So you can be proud.
awesome. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
You're obviously very accomplished. I'm thrilled to have you on and talk a little bit about your poetry. Um, so we'll dive right into it. One thing that I'm kind of interested in is the six coup. Could you like maybe explain a little bit about what that is? And it's something that you do a lot of and that I enjoy. I was just wondering like if you can give a little bit of background about that.
Okay, so the Sisku, I pronounce it Sisku because I'm French. So
That's a better pronunciation.
I wanted to say it in the French way because six is six, is the same, it's the number. So the Sisku is the first poetry form I created years ago. If I remember correctly, it's 2019. It's Monday today. So I have been passionate about the haiku for many years. I studied the masters. I wrote a lot of haikus. It doesn't mean that I'm a master myself, just saying that I studied a lot of haiku, read a lot of them, and it's my favorite poetry form. Of all the poetry forms I've tried and read, this is really the one that makes my heart skip a beat, literally, when I read good haiku. But as an artist, because I'm not just a writer, I wanted to challenge myself. I felt that I was kind of stuck as a poet at the time. So I wanted to create a form that would be inspired by the haiku and also by my passion for photography. So basically, the Sisku is a 6-word poem that is inspired by and contain a photo. That's basically what it is. So the rules of including an element of nature is the haiku, of course. The twist and surprise on the third line, more or less, is based on the haiku as well. But instead of the syllable count, we're doing words here. So it's 3 lines, like the modern haiku. Line 1 is 1 or 2 words. Line 2 is 2 or 3 words. Each line being a different idea. And the third line is the remaining words and the twist and surprise, really. So a Sisku has to have a photo attached to it. If it's just a 6-word poem, it doesn't work. It has to have the image involved in it. So if you can't use photography, that's fine, use an image. But I did it originally to have a photograph because I wanted to use my photography as inspiration, really. That was the point.
That's awesome. And I see you're just as accomplished with photography as poetry. Does one inspire the other, or is it kind of just a culmination of interests?
I started my career in 2005, my artistic career as a poet. So I was big into poetry. Initially, I wrote in French, then I started writing in English. And then back in 2008, I started taking photos with an old camera. I really didn't know what I was doing. And, I shared the photos online. They were raw. There was no edit or anything. People were like, "Oh my God, you could take photos." I'm like, "What?" No idea what I'm doing. And then I continued taking photos, but without really, worrying about me becoming a photographer later. I really didn't care at the time. In 2009, I was extremely lucky to be able to go to Syria before the Civil War. And it's to me one of the most beautiful countries in the world. And I took some photos with my old camera without knowing what I was doing. And I took a very candid photo of a group of people in a city, Palmyra, sorry, which was, destroyed. The old part of the city was destroyed, and I have the photo of the famous arch in the old city, which is a very candid photo. And when people saw that photo online, they were like, "Oh, I have to have this photo. Sell your rights, because this is such a historic photo. It's a very important photo." But I'm like, "Are you kidding me? This is too important for me to sell it. I'm keeping it. I love it. And I don't care what you think. I'm not giving up my right on this photo." But it was, I think, the day that I realized that I wanted to learn how to continue taking that kind of photos. I realized that there was something there. So I took a break from writing poetry in 2010 after the release of my fifth book, and to focus on photography. And for 4 years, actually only did photography. That was the only thing I did. I wrote a little bit because in the meantime, I started working in marketing, started working with clients because I needed, obviously, to make some money. So, but apart from that, I mostly focused on photography. And in 2014, I launched my career as a photographer. Um, and then a few years later, I realized, that I could use my photos to inspire my poetry, and I could use my old poetry to inspire my photography as well. So that's when I started sharing, visual poetry much more than just written poetry. So to answer your question, I don't really have an answer because it depends on the poem, it depends on the photograph, it really depends on many factors. But when I take photographs, I have words in my mind.
Mhm.
When I write poetry, I have images in my mind. So that's the only real answer I can give you. uh, that's what it is.
Okay, perfect. And um, do you have a certain process that you go through when you're creating, or is it just comes to you and you try to translate what's coming into you?
it, it's very hard for me to answer this question. And some people will tell you, "Oh, excellent question. Thank you." um, it it really depends. Some writers have a very, have a framework
Right.
they use to work on. I don't have any framework. And even though I wrote a play years ago where I had my main ideas, the characters, I did love research and so on and so forth, that's basically the only time when I really focused on something in particular. And I write short stories as well, and I realize I can't, I need to get started on a project, and then I'll start writing up the ideas of who are my characters, where they going, what the main theme, the main idea will be. But then things change. So I'm not the typical writer, because first, I'm a very slow writer. I take my time to write anything. I can't, if you're gonna push me to write fast, good luck with that. That's why NaNoWriMo, no way in hell I can do that. I've tried twice and I failed miserably. So I'm a very slow writer, and my process is really all over the place. There's not every project I've worked on, even one photograph, I wouldn't be able to tell you, "Oh, that was the way I planned it. I planned it this way, planned it that way," because there's always something coming up. Of course, there's a few things that I've done in my career what I've planned and it went according to plan. But I would say that 95, 96% of the time, there's no real solid process in place. It has to come from here. I have to feel good about what I'm doing. I have to feel that I'm really following the voice in my head. You know what writers say, they have a voice in their head. I guess it must be the same for you when you write your poetry, right? You
Yeah.
must hear something. I don't know, but I'm all over the place. I'm not a very well organized writer in that sense.
Oh no, it's similar for me. I usually write a line then pace around for a couple hours. It's
Exactly. Here you go.
yeah, it never for me it never goes according to plan.
Mm,
It's kind of just I have to feel inspired at the moment.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
do you have any particular projects that really stood out for you that you carry with you like more than others, or they all have a little special meaning to you? Like I know
My
the
play.
Syria one probably is a big
Yeah.
moment.
I'm
Is
sorry.
there any like the Syria?
Yeah.
That's a big moment. Do you have any other big moments like that that really stick out for you?
It's really hard to talk about it because Syria was really a trip that opened my mind to so many different things, and not just as an artist in general in my life. It really opened a lot of things. I got to understand myself a lot better as a person. uh that's from, witnessing what was going on there, the level of poverty that was there. We would visit places, touristy places, and all these kids literally living with their parents in the ruins would come out of nowhere and asking for money and asking for
Yeah.
things. Visiting the mosques as well, where I had to wear something on my face, and spending more time thinking, oh my God, women have to wear something on their faces, and I don't feel free, blah blah blah. And then coming out of the mosques and seeing all these women that seem quite happy, and thinking, you spent 45 minutes complaining about this, meanwhile look at them, they have beautiful smiles, they seem happy, right?
Mhm.
So it Syria really was a big moment in opening my life to what was possible, not just as an artist, but to so many things. But in terms of writing per se, I would say that my big moment was writing my play. That was the big moment in my literary career, uh, which is very loosely based on my personal experience with a few major events. Um, so writing this play was like going to Syria, basically, really made me aware of what I could achieve as a writer, because for the longest time I thought I would just be a poet. And writing a play was really a great challenge. Also, getting to know myself writing a play. What a lot of writers, I think, forget is that when they write something, well, they're so scared. I don't think they're scared of judgment per se from their readers. They are scared of revealing a part of themselves that they may not have been able to face before they started writing that story or that novel or that play. And for me, this play was a way to express things about my life that were, I wouldn't say repressed because that's not the case, but things that I wouldn't have been able to do before, to reveal before. And it has really helped me as a human being to understand that I was, um, there were things in my life that I was right to do. There were some decisions that I was making that I was right to make. So a long spiel
No, that's
to say,
great.
yeah, that was the play was the major thing in my life as a writer.
That's yeah. I imagine it takes a lot of toll on your energy, but it also ha- eases your
Yeah,
your your conscience a little bit, and you're
yeah.
able to accept the things that you wanted to express. Um, would you be okay with us sharing a few of your poems here?
Oh,
A couple of
absolutely.
recordings.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me share my screen here.
You prefer me to read? What would be better?
Yes, if you could.
Okay, let me see. Okay,
All
let
right.
me see. Okay. Oh,
So we can, are you able to see the screen?
yeah,
Okay.
I can see the screen. I'm looking for the poem right now.
Sorry, I should have
Oh,
coordinated that better.
yeah, I have two books in my hands right now. Okay, there you go. So, do you prefer playing the video, or do you want me to read instead?
If
What's
you could read instead, that'd be great. I'll just leave this up so people know where to find it. This
Yeah,
one's called Time Has Passed Us By, and it's
yeah,
on your YouTube channel.
yeah. So basically, Time Has Passed Us By is also appears in my last poetry book, A Particle of You, which I released this year actually with my business partner, sorry, and my great friend David Ellis. So A Particle of You is a book of love poetry. And Time Has Passed Us By is a poem inspired by the cinematic orchestras, the song called To Build a Home, which is a magnificent song. So here it is. Looking at you now, as the green of leaves subsides, I understand my purpose. The light of your presence filters through the cracks of absence. My soul knows what's right. Time has passed us by in this house others will not see. Time has passed us by, but I will let you go. My love, the dust will settle, because we are all made of stars and stars do not lie. The ebb and flow of delight will be ours again someday. Do not fear for me. Time has passed us by in this house others will not see. Time has passed us by, but I will let you go. Please close your eyes now. That's it.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not familiar with the song this was based on.
Yep.
Could you provide a little background?
Background
Like as far as like the your intended meaning behind the poem?
oh yeah, yeah. So basically, the way I see the song To Build a Home is, the way I understand it, this is a story of old age, an old couple that talks about the love for each other and how they build that home, you know, in their hearts as well as the home, the physical home. And the poem I wrote is about basically spending a lifetime with the love of your life, waking up with them every single day, and now having to face their passing,
Yeah.
from illness, maybe cancer and things like that, or it could be Alzheimer's disease or dementia, or dealing with the pain of losing someone, and how embracing that pain can actually teach you how to grieve in a very healthy way.
Yeah, I think it's hard to imagine. Um, it's harder to imagine when you're younger than older that there the ability to be stoic or mature about
Yeah,
the passing of a loved one.
yeah,
Because I know from my perspective, like being younger and having a
uh-huh,
someone I love pass, it's very difficult and
yeah,
you don't seem to have any answers. But if you grow old, if you're blessed enough to grow old with someone,
yeah,
you're able to have that honest conversation. And I think that's very important.
yeah.
Right. Thank you
Good.
for sharing that. Would you mind sharing one of your siskus?
Oh, you want me to find the Cisco? Okay.
Yeah, please.
Okay,
Would
let
you
me
want to
see.
share your screen? I can stop sharing mine.
No, I can write a Cisco, but it's kind of hard if you don't see the images.
Yes.
That's the thing. So let me see if I can share my screen here. Share screen. Let's see. If I can do it. Oh, here you go. I found. Can you see something?
Yes.
Okay. So I took this photo in France. You see crêperie, where you can eat crepe middle of the night.
That's a beautiful street.
Thank you. Well, it's France, right?
I've never been, so it's hard for me to visualize.
Ah, yeah. It's the town is called Angers. So it's in the area of the castles of the Loire. You know, we have beautiful castles in that area. So I spent some time there in early 2017. So I was walking, it was night. I was with my partner at the time, and I heard footsteps on the cobblestones. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a photo because this is a typical image, typical view what you see at night in those old towns. So I took the photo, and of course, as you can see, the copyright dates, the poem was written later. So most, I would say, all my Cisco's, start with the image, of course. So that's what it is. So
Could
all
you read it for
things
us?
here. And here you go, the photo I was telling you about the famous arch,
Oh wow.
and a candid photo. And yeah,
That's
so
a
that's,
powerful image.
oh, it's very candid.
Yes.
People can't believe me when I tell them I didn't know what I was doing. I heard these people behind me, I turned around and I clicked, and that's the photo. They are very underexposed because of course it was it's a point and shoot camera, and so it exposes for what is the lightest part of the photo. That's why they look so dark, but that's um that's what it is. So that's one of my absolutely favorite photos that I've taken. It's very candid, and to me it speaks to what photography is really about. It's not about all this editing and all this over editing, and you see those images that look like you're in a fairy tale and so on and so forth. It's about really simplicity, and anything candid, anything telling a story. Photography is really about telling stories, and things that most of us would overlook, really. That's really the power of photography to me.
Absolutely. You have a blend of the modern world, and then
Mhm.
kind of like right in front of you still is history. But if you look even deeper into the photo and even off to the sides, it's like you can keep going back into history and
Mhm.
really get a feel for how old that place really is and
Oh,
how
yeah.
much that they've been through over the years.
Mhm.
So, as you mentioned, this photo was taken first. How often do you go back through your archives if you're searching for inspiration? Do you have is this like a maybe a month or two go by and you're like, let me take a look at some things I may have overlooked? Is it on a whim? Kind of.
Oh no, I always look at old photos because I live in the Canadian prairies where we have long winters, especially this winter is going to be long and cold, I think. So the opportunities to take photos are far and few in between, really. So I've when I was practicing for so many years, I took so many photos. So I have thousands of photos in my archives. So I always have something that can be used for poetry, for book covers, because I design my own book covers too. For other projects, I do exhibits on my website, videos, and I always have an image a photo that I can use for a project, because in my mind, since I hear words all the time, I'm like, okay, what story am I going to tell today without photo? And even if I don't use it right now, I know that in 6 months from now, or 2 years, even 10 years from now, I'll have something for that works for a project, really.
And have you, I personally, I haven't taken a lot of photographs. I've began incorporating some AI, at least into my imagery. Is that something you're staying away from, or have you done that as well?
I had this conversation with someone a few days ago. AI is a slippery slope,
Yes.
but let's be honest about what artists have been doing for many, many years. We all copy from each other. We copy. To me, all the ideas in the world have been used and reused and overused and abused. Even when you read a book, a novel, to fit into a genre, you have to have specific themes. They are the same all the time. If you stray out of those specific themes, then you might go into a different genre. But so in this sense, I think we should stop being that anal about the whole thing, because we all copy from one another.
Right.
With that said, what I have a problem with is when you use AI to make money, to enter contests
Oh,
and
yeah.
to win contests in which people have poured their hearts and time and money into creating things themselves, and they can't win because it's unfair competition. That's where I have a problem with AI. But AI as a tool to increase your productivity, to help you um, imagine things. I mean, not imagine things, but picture in your mind, have a good picture, good view of what a character would look like in a book, how to create a specific setting so that it helps you moving forward with your story, helps you, be a better writer. Then AI is fantastic. But as I said, I have a problem with AI being used for unfair competition, for creating things that will take money away from the artists who work hard and spend years and years and years perfecting their skills to be able to make money of their work. That's
Right.
where I have a problem with AI. Apart from that, I mean, as I said, let's stop being hypocritical about, you're stealing my ideas, blah, blah, blah. AI is stealing. We're stealing from one another all the time. So let's just have a real conversation about what we are doing as artists and who inspires us. Because when we hear the question, who inspires you as an artist? If we say we're inspired by someone, it means that more or less we are copying from them or using what we think is great for them to further or to move on with our art. I don't know if it makes sense.
No, I think you have to be very careful. Like when you feel inspired, like even just watching movies, I know I
Yes,
catch myself sometimes imitating the pattern of speech if I
yes,
really enjoy the movie.
yeah,
And so that's just something you have to be mindful of when you're creating your own work
yeah,
and just be honest about it. And if somebody says, "Hey, this seems really similar," and it's like, "Well, you're right, it is similar in this way." And as long as you can show that, you know, I think intent matters. And
yes,
so,
absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah, that's my
okay.
cat.
Oh, hi. She
He's
said
very
enough. It's time to get off. Oh, beautiful. Um, well, I really appreciate the time you spent with us.
Thank you.
Where I know that your website, you have a great website, creativeramblings.com.
Yes.
Okay, and you're on a lot of social media platforms. Is there any of them in particular that you prefer over others where people can find you, or you're happy to use all the platforms?
I used to have a favorite platform. It was Twitter. But we all know what's going on right now. The problem with social media, it's very cyclical kind of um, world, in the sense that, you know, social media is what we make of it, basically. So even though people are moving, and I've moved to other social media platforms because they're enjoyable, and I really like the way social media is turning back into, because it's becoming again a great platform to communicate with people. But once again, once the novelty is off, and people realize that they can behave in the same way on other platforms they can behave on Facebook and Twitter, will have the same issue. So I do not have a favorite platform anymore. I like being on many different platforms because I love variety, and I love observing how people communicate and how they interact. But if I could, I honestly would be out of social media. I think I've reached that age when, I'm tired of, the whole influencer thing and people wanting to show their lives
Mhm.
is fantastic and so on and so forth. Or they complain too much. I'm not perfect by any stretch of imagination, but I like good vibes. I like positivity. And I understand that we'll have issues. We'll need to talk to someone, and that's normal. We're human. But I think people a little too over dramatic at times. And that's why I try. I'm maybe on many social media platforms, but I tend more and more to stay away from social media because I also want to focus on my career and my work. And you can be everywhere. That's a problem. So no,
Yeah.
I do not have a favorite social media platform anymore. Sorry for the long spiel.
No,
Should have said no, I don't have a favorite platform.
no, I'm happy to get the thoughts. It's more useful to hear that than just yes or no. Because I think that there's a tendency for people to try to have like brief moments of superiority where they can say, "Ah, I got you,"
Yeah,
and that's always a problem, especially if you're a human and make mistakes. Maybe you
yeah.
say something you wouldn't have liked to say it that way, so it can be tricky to navigate.
Yeah. And plus, when you reach a certain age, not to say I'm old, I'm not old, but when you reach a certain age, you know what you want in life.
Right.
Most of the people who argue on social media and they need to feel like I'm an influencer, I'm great, I'm this and that, they're younger. They're people who are looking for something in life, they haven't found it, and that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I remember being in my 20s, I was not perfect. I mean, I was not a piece of cake with anyone. So it takes a lot to grow up. It takes experience, it takes difficult events, it takes, challenges, so on and so forth. So when you're young, you think you've seen and done everything, but then life, teaches you a few things. So I think that's probably why I'm less and less interested in being on social media. That's really what it is. But there's nothing wrong with being young and wanting to get in, attention from others. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the way we all are in our 20s, early 30s, or it's the way we are. We are humans, and we like, we look, most of us look for validation in other people's words instead of our own mind and our own ideas. As you grow old, this stops, but it takes years to experience that and to understand it. So that's okay. We all have to grow eventually.
Oh yes. Okay. Um, well, I'm not going to keep you too much longer. Is there anything else you wanted to share while we're here?
No, I want to thank you very much for having me. That was a very nice conversation. It's quite different from the type of interviews I'm used to having with people. So that was a nice, relaxing, very, very comfortable conversation. So thank you very much for having me.
Well, that's a very kind compliment. I feel like I'm just trying to keep my head above water.
It's
Uh,
good. Yeah, you
I,
are.
yeah.
You definitely are. No, no, you're very, very nice, and you make me feel real comfortable, and with questions that are not questions that I often get. So that was a nice change for me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again, and I hope to be in touch with you very soon.
For sure, for sure.
All right, have a good rest of your
Bye.
day. Bye.
Bye.